What did you read?
Well, I actually just finished it this morning. I just, by the skin of my teeth, managed to finish this. And that is Penance by Eliza Clark. Eliza Clark was born in Newcastle upon Tyne and lives in London. Her first novel, Boy Parts, was written after she received a grant from New Writing North's Young Writers Talent Fund. She has been chosen as a finalist for the Women's Prize for Fiction and Good Housekeeping Futures Award for writers 35 and under. Yes, I was reading this last week when I went away for the weekend, and so throughout this past week I was like, I should try and finish that book. And I went to the beach and I was reading it on the beach, so I actually took a photo of the beach, or the book on the beach, for the Instagram, because it just felt so fitting. But yes, let me tell you all about this book and how I felt about it. So, as I mentioned last week when I started the book, it's kind of about like a fictional true crime that happened, and it's told through the lens of a journalist who's writing a book about said crime. So it's about these three teenage girls who kind of kidnapped one of their classmates and burned her in a house, and they were trying to kill her, and they succeeded. And so this whole story is about going kind of deep diving into each of the girls and kind of like what was going on in their lives around this time and what was going on between all of them, and just like going through all of that and kind of explaining what happened, like what actually happened. But it also, what was really interesting about it is it kind of did a deep dive into like the internet and like Tumblr culture and like true crime as a fandom thing, which was very interesting, because this, like, it kind of opened my mind up to things that I never had really thought about, and in a way that like one of the main one of the girls who did the crime, she was obsessed with true crime, but specifically about like a mass shooter, like this teenage guy who shot up his school. She became obsessed with him and was part of a fandom that like worshipped him. And she wrote fan fiction about him, like weird stuff. And I was like, this is probably real though. Like, I don't want to look into it because I don't want to know more, but like this has to be a thing that actually happens, right? And that just like chilled me to my bones. I was like, when I think about true crime, I just think about like, you know, the big ones that like everybody knows about and stuff. I don't think about like niche little things like this, but like it made it extra creepy, and it is making me like think about true crime a little bit more, and like how much of that do I actually want to be like, you know, observing and getting into and supporting, because it is kind of messed up. Like a lot of it is very messed up, so it does make you think about that a lot while reading it. But it's also very much just like about teenage girls. So I wanted to say, like, for anybody interested in reading this book, there is a lot of kind of like cattiness and like teenage girls bullying each other is like a large part of the book. So there are times where I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. Like, it was very, very catty is probably the best way I could put it. But it did add to the whole book because it kind of paints a picture. But then another level to the book is that this is being written, quote unquote, written by a journalist. And so when you get to the end of the book, you're kind of like, how much of this was real and how much of it was kind of played up for this book that he's writing, and like it just like had a lot of really interesting elements. So all in all, I really liked it. I would say I didn't like it as much as Boy Parts. I like Boy Parts because I was gonna ask it, because that one you're like focused in on one character and you're in her mind and you're kind of like, oh, she's so messed up, but it's so interesting. Whereas with this one, there is a lot of bouncing around and kind of like interpretation, and you're like, ooh, how much of this is really true, and is this how it really happened, and who do I actually feel bad for, because like even the victim was kind of like had, you know, things about her that were like not the most flattering, and like she was kind of mean to people too, and like so the whole time while you're reading you're kind of like, what is true, like what do I believe? And so that was really fun. But yeah, with Boy Parts you kind of like know from the get-go, you're like, oh, this character, she's bad, but it's interesting to read from her perspective. So I'm really excited to see what else Eliza Clark writes. I know she has a short story collection coming out later this year, like just in the next few months, I guess. So I'm excited to get that and read that and kind of see where she goes, because she's kind of like a hot young writer who has, you know, lots ahead of her. So I'm really excited to see what she does.
That's so cool. Where is she from?
She's from England. She lives in London now.
Classic. Cool British.
She's very cool. I'll show her on the video. She's very cool, wearing a jumpsuit with her red hair.
Okay.
She's awesome.
Right. She's awesome.
Yeah.
Damn it.
She's who we all want to be, you know?
So Boy Parts was her first book, 2020. Yes.
I know. I've now read everything that she has come out with so far. So.
Okay, wait.
Or not.
It says that she had a short story collection called She's Always Hungry, published with Granta in 2023.
Oh, that's the one that's coming out. It's coming out this year here, I guess, then.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's being published in Canada. later this year.
And I'm seeing her Instagram. And oh wait, no, this is her. Wow, she's cool. Damn it. That's awesome.
A cool chick.
How do you feel about the covers of her books? Because they have that kind of thing that's going on with a lot of covers, right? Where it's like a big block of color with a photograph underneath.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a classic thing right
That's
now.
true. That is a thing, and I dig it. I find that I'm very drawn to books with covers like that. Like I
agree.
far I like it. I do really like it because I do like just like an image, like a photograph instead of, illustrated covers. I do enjoy when a photograph is used in a really interesting way, and like I feel like her covers have really interesting photographs. So I dig it. I'm into it.
That's awesome.